Once again, welcome everyone to our summer camps webinar today. The first scenario we're going to look at is the simplest, the primary classroom and enrollment status scenario. So in this scenario, what we'll be looking at is you can use the roll call sheets based on the primary classroom and their enrollment status, and you can set them out using an enrollment status of vacation or summer break or something like that for weeks that they are not going to be there. So how do we do that in Procare? Let's move over to Procare. And there we are. So now you should be seeing my family. I'm on the Adams family here. And I've set up both Peter and Wendy with schedules, but I'll go down here and use Chris Combs. She's a good example. I don't really have a summer schedule set up for her. Her current schedule ends in May, right there. So if I just wanted to handle whether she was coming to summer camp for us, and again, this is a very simplistic approach. You can change her enrollment status on any given date to be out on summer break. So let's say that she was not coming for the first week in June or the second week, but in the third week, starting in the 15th of June, she is coming. So what I would want to do probably is on May 31st, put her out as summer break, just like that. And then I can go down and again put her back enrolled on June 15th. Just like that. And if she's coming for, say, 2, 3, 4 weeks in there, she might be coming these 2 weeks. She will disenroll then, again on the 28th. So I would again make her status summer break on the 28th. That puts her unenrolled. And then if she's going to stay out, say, for the whole rest of the summer and just come back in the fall, I could either put her withdrawn if she's going to move on, or if she's coming back in the fall, I could go ahead and re-enroll her, say, August 31st and put her back in. But what does that do for us? Well, it allows us to run just our standard roll call reports based on an enrollment status. So if I say I only want children who are enrolled, I will only get Chris to show up on any of those roll call sheets if she's the date range I pick is in between whatever start and end dates I've got here for her statuses. So she's going to be all the way enrolled all the way to May 31st of this year, and then she's going to be on summer break for 2 weeks, then re-enrolled for 2 weeks, then on summer break for the rest of the summer, and re-enrolled again in the fall. Let's see how that looks. So I have not changed her classroom. I could change her classroom to school age, from school age to a day camp room. Let's say we've got a day camp room or a summer camp room that we call our day camp room. I've created 2 in here for the more complex scenarios when we get to those. But for right now, I could just change her classroom for just that child by going to her information relationships and go ahead and just change the classroom up there. There is a way to save those, change those for a group of children all at once. So she's now got a different classroom. You wouldn't want to change this classroom until we get to summer, because she's currently in the school age room, and you would not want to change that because it's going to put her primary classroom there. And again, we're doing this without using schedules for kids. So when I'm looking at my reports, I'm going to look at my standard reports, family data, and just come down and look at the roll call. Here, I'm going to pick whatever roll call format I want. Let's say I want just the Monday through Friday AM and PM. And I want to organize this by primary classroom and child's name. But I want to filter this based on the child's enrollment status when I'm running this. So I only want children who are withdrawn or enrolled as of the date that I'm running it. And I can say as of a particular day, when I choose the enrollment status for the child, when I'm in the filter, it gives me all of these date opportunities here. So I could say as of a particular day. And that would be normally, that would be the start of my summer, something like that. So I'll go over here to June 1, right there. And let's see how many kids we have. We have 26. It's going to come out by primary classroom. And we should see that Chris is not on this because she should be withdrawn. We shouldn't have that day camp classroom in here. I'm going kind of quickly back and forth, but you'll see starting with the infants and then toddlers, we don't have the day camp room showing up at all. And that's because Chris is not enrolled on that day. So when I do have an enrollment date that includes her, let's change this to be 2 weeks later on the 15th, and I think she's in there now. Yeah, it went up 127. So now when we run it, we're going to see, as the last page, it should be the day camp room. There it is. And there's the day camp room, and there's Chris Combs. And it's showing up this way because of her enrollment status, period. So this is the simplest way. Just change the enrollment status to be on summer break the weeks they're not coming to summer camp. Leave it as enrolled the weeks they are coming. And optionally, you could change their primary classroom if you really don't need to change their classroom. A lot of smaller centers really don't need to change it. Just leave it alone and just use the enrollment status by itself. Okay, so that's scenario one. That's the simplest. I'm going to switch back to my little spreadsheet over here. And second one, on this part of this, the primary classroom and enrollment status, you can use a contract or selected accounts billing to bill only for the weeks enrolled. So that's the other advantage to this. If we are taking a child out of enrollment, you could use formula billing, by the way. We're not going to go into detail on how this works, but formula billing would work for the days or the weeks that they attend. You'd have them be checking in and checking out or being checked in and out, and then charge for those weeks. You could create a formula and attach it for the billing on that so that it charges a summer rate rather than year-round rate if you charge hourly or that type thing. But most centers use a contracted amount or selected accounts billing. So let's go back over to Procare and I'll show you how that works. Alrighty. So we're still on the Combs family, and what I would do for Chris is I would change her normal billing here to be, if I wanted to, I could set up a summer schedule and then attach the billing for the summer just to that schedule. The way I have it set up, I have standard billing all schedules. So I would just simply make a change to my weekly billing, and it would be my summer camp charge or whatever, my day camp all day. So that would change to $25 a day. Let's just leave it like that. I will go ahead and take out these two other entries we've got here just to make it a little simpler. There we go. So we've now changed her billing information in Procare to be the day camp charge at $25 a week. It's a weekly rate. When we go to run our billing, and this can be either contract billing for all families here or selected accounts, either way, but I'll do this one first. Weekly is what we're going to run, and we're going to look at the enrollment status of the child on a particular day. So Chris is not enrolled on June 1, and because she's not enrolled on June 1, that's the first week I'm going to charge for my summer. I'm going to go forward. I'm going to see any child who is enrolled on that day, but I don't see Chris Combs here. I see Charlotte because she's still enrolled, but Chris is not showing up as someone to bill. That's due to the fact that her enrollment status is on summer break at the time we're running the contract billing. Let's change this to be the 15th of June, where she is re-enrolled. right there. And we'll do the same for the posting date. And we'll see that she is included when we run our weekly with that new charge. And so here's Chris right here, and here's her new charge description and the amount, 25. She's included in this run because she's enrolled. So that is the simplest way to handle the billing for the with enrollment in and out. The next one would be, just talking about staffing analysis, you would use your enrolled roll call sheets really to just look and see who is scheduled in a room or who's enrolled as of those dates, if you need to know what your staffing needs are going forward. And as I said, that's the shortest one. So let's move back over to our spreadsheet or slideshow here. So the slideshow, this one is the second scenario, classroom, using a classroom like a day camp, along with what we call child tracking. So I'll use Chris Combs again as a scenario, and rather than changing her enrollment status, I'm going to leave her enrolled for the whole summer, but I'm going to assign what we call tracking items to allow me to generate reports by the week. So I can see my roll call reports by the week. I can see all of those, and when I go to bill, that's where I would use my selected accounts billing to do the contract billing. So I'm going to leave her contract set up the same way I have it. I'm going to change her tracking and her enrollment. I would not be changing her enrollment like I did. I would just leave her enrolled for the whole summer. So I'm just going to delete all these enrollment changes and just leave her enrolled for the whole summer. Just period. She's going to have a status of enrolled. So she's now enrolled. Again, she doesn't have a schedule, so she doesn't have a schedule that goes into the summer. What we are going to do is use this, child tracking. So I've added some child tracking items in here for our summer weeks. And I created a category called summer weeks, and then the starting day of each week I put in as the description. So she is coming June 15th, and then she's going to be coming June 29th and July 6th and July 13th, let's say. And then the rest of the summer she's going to be out. So she's coming these 4 weeks. I'm going to check those off in her child tracking box. What does that do for us? What it does is it allows me to run roll call reports based on the tracking item and also do billing based on the tracking. So let's look at the reports first. You can run either our standard roll call reports, for example, the same one that I ran just a little while ago. You could use the filter and use child tracking up here to filter by the child tracking. So I want to run my report here to be for summer week starting June 15. How many do I have? Oh, I only have one child that meets that criteria because I haven't assigned the tracking item to any other children yet. I'm grouping this by primary classroom because we're not using schedules. And again, optionally, you could change the child's classroom if you want to, or leave it as it was if it doesn't apply that they're not really in a different room. But this gives you a way to see just who is coming that particular week by tracking item. That's one way to go about it. Again, that's our standard roll call report used with a filter up here. The other way to attack that or accomplish it is to go through the tracking category of reports and choose one of these formats, maybe the child roster. You can do a pickup drop-off. If you have schedules in for kids, these include the child schedule. If all you need is a roster by primary classroom, this would be the one to use here. And then you would use your tracking item, summer weeks, here. You could, again, filter by just a specific week, or if you want to run it for all weeks, you could leave it like that. And summer week 1 would show up, and week 2 and week 3 and so on. The way this one runs is it shows the child, or the room rather, and then it shows children in that room and which weeks they're coming for that particular week. You can do the child roster as well, and this just shows you, select your summer, and when you pick this, it's not going to come out by classroom with the weeks that the child's coming. This is going to show you by the tracking item. So the first tracking item that I actually have any marks on any children for is June 15. If I add June 1 and June 8, say, to Chris, I would get all 3 of those showing up in this run. Let's go ahead and just go back to her and add those in so you can see how that works. So I'll just recheck, I'll check rather, week 1, 8, and 15 in June. And let's do all of those. So we will get, and she's the only child I've attached any tracking items to so far. So I've got 7 weeks there checked off. Let's go run that same exact report. And we're going to select summer weeks. And again, you could use your filter and say, I just want week 1, if that's what you're interested in. The other way to do it is when you run this, you're going to see these come up 1 page at a time. So you can print, for example, and just say, I only want page 1 or page 2 or page 3, whatever it is there. You can handle the way you print it out that way as well. So you'll see that we've got 7 pages. Here's June 1. There's June 8. That's the next page. And June 15. And it's the same child. So this is a really nice, simple way to handle a roster for summer camp in Procare. So those are the 2 basic ways to use primary classroom along with a tracking code, or just using the enrollment status. And then the billing will show you how to handle the billing there. What I would do is use my selected accounts billing rather than my contract billing. I would set up all the children with their normal weekly charge for summer camp, if that's how you charge, or if it's a monthly, you could do it as monthly as well. But when you go into selected account billing, you have the filter option here. So I'm going to say that I want to filter who I'm charging based on that child tracking. So I'm going to select child as my filter type. That gives me access to all of the child tracking elements that we've got in the system. And we're going to look at just week 1. So when I do that, I only have 1 child that I've added that to. The description that I want here is day camp, and it's going to be day camp all day, $25. And I could even put a comment that says week 1. But more than likely what I would do here is I would put my posting date to represent what week am I charging for. And I'm charging their primary account ledger. When I go forward, I'm going to see just the children who have that tracking item attached to them. In this case, it's Chris Combs, and I would just select her and post. And to show how that works, if I go forward and let's go attach a different child. This one here, let's say Mary. Let's say she's coming for week 1 as well, right there. And I'm going to put her also on August 3rd. Okay, and we're going to redo that billing just so you can see what happens there when we change that. So I'm going to use, once again, my selection, child selection, tracking, and I just want week 1. I've now got 2 children. So when I go forward after I pick my description, there we go. I'll just leave the comment blank. We've now got Mary Ingalls as well as Chris showing up to be selected. And again, it's selecting these children based on that tracking item being attached to the child. So let's go back and change our tracking item. I should have changed my billing day here. I'm going to go ahead and change it to be correct for this week, August 3rd. And I'm going to change my filter selection to be not week 1, but the week of August 3rd. And when we do that, we should see only Chris, or only Mary on the next page. And we do. So that's how you can segregate out using tracking for the billing as well as for the reports. And it looks like Kim has her hand up. If you have a microphone, Kim, you can ask your question. If you don't, you can type it into the box down below. If you're having a question there. Did you have a question? Can't hear you, so I'm assuming you don't have a microphone on your computer. And it looks like Marilyn had her hand up as well, so I'll take Marilyn off mute. Do you have a microphone, Marilyn? No? Okay. And okay, Kim, you typed your question in. Thank you. Can I do selected billing with contracted billing? Yes, that's exactly what that is. Selected billing is contract billing. So it's using whatever was in the child's contract cycle setup. You'll notice that I set up the cycle to be day camp all day, but you can use this. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, it's not going to pull from their billing box. If you're thinking that you might have different kids with different rates, is that what's going on? Do you have different kids with different rates? Yeah, go ahead. So this is just charging based on whatever description you pick here and whatever dollar amount. So let's just go through the scenario again. If I pick day camp all day, it plugs in $25 here. So when I go forward, any child who's enrolled and meets the criteria that I've set with my filter, in this case I didn't set any filter, but as we set before, when we filtered, you could just override this dollar amount to be whatever you need it to be for different kids for different weeks, if that's what you're trying to do. Oh, what will keep the system from double billing if I run contract? Well, that is the issue. So the only way to keep from double billing is to go into their billing box and change it for the summer. Change it here, or you can set up a specific schedule, but you'd have to take the billing that's attached to standard billing all schedules out. You'd have to move that to, say, their school year schedule. You notice how these kids in my database, all of their ending dates are the end of the school year. So billing would stop if I had all of my billing attached to these current schedules. It would stop automatically on May 31st. That's a good point. So you would not want to have both the billing box set up for the routine annual or weekly unless it's the same. If it's the same for the summer, then you don't need to do anything different. You would need to change it in the billing box. So that kind of puts us into our third scenario, where we're going to start looking at using child schedules. Again, with this method, using tracking, you could get your roll call reports and so forth based on the child tracking and use those for your staffing needs analysis. It would just be reading who's there, who's scheduled to be there that week. It's a little more setup time because you have to create the weekly tracking items, and then you have to add them to the kids, but that's not too bad when they come in. So that's the summary on that one. Let's go back and take a look at our slideshow here on the third one. This is our first example of using child schedules. And that's what we call one large or summer schedule for the whole summer, and then use exceptions and absences. So I'll go through what the main bullet points for this are. You can run your roll call reports by the real schedule as they're scheduled. You can also do billing. Contract billing can be attached to a specific schedule. So you can say, I want this billing to run for this length of time. We have the same problem here when we're using one large schedule for the summer. You'd have to know which kids are not coming for certain weeks. So this approach that I'm going through right now works very well if you have a summer program where most of your kids come either all summer or most of the summer, and there's a few exceptions or absences. If you have a situation that's the opposite of that, you have a lot of kids with you during the school year, and then you offer a summer program and only certain kids come on certain days, and you really don't know who's coming when until maybe the week before or something like that. Either tracking items and that kind of thing would be better suited, or building specific individual weekly schedules that the child is scheduled to come. When you do that and change their enrollment status to match, you can use a combination. By the way, the tools I showed you at the beginning, the first scenario, using the enrollment status as an in-out, that is a really easy way to control billing. If you, the only reason you would really need to change the billing box, and this is really addressed at Kim, is if the charge is different. So you've got a, for example, you've got a normal charge during the school year called school age billing or something like that, but for the summer you want to use a different charge description. So what I would do is, you have a combination of methods to approach this. Any status of enrollment that is not the word enrolled is going to keep a child out of our automated billing routines, our weekly, which is what you were talking about. How do you stop the system from running the billing for them? The easiest way is to change their enrollment status to be something else. But I wanted to go back to our third category here. So when you use child schedules, you can get a better staffing analysis report, because our classroom analysis will show how many children are scheduled in what rooms by the hour, actually by the quarter hour. And the other thing with this is it's a little bit more setup time, because you're adding schedules to kids. How many of you use child schedules now? Just by a show of hands. If you use child schedules, you have like a routine schedule set up for their whole school year, something like that. That's what you would do. You would set up one that ends the school year, and then you would start another schedule for the summer. Okay, so there's only 2 of you that use schedules. So I'm going to go through the scenario here, which is using one large schedule with exceptions and absences. And let's just go through the 4th scenario as well. And this is just really the same thing, only broken down into even more schedules. So you can really run the same reports, the overall schedules and actual schedules. Those will run the same, but the advantage to this is that if they're not scheduled at all, then they won't show up. Either way, the roll call reports work either way, with one large schedule or many different schedules. The billing contracts can then be attached, and this kind of applies to Kim. You can attach your billing to specific schedules. So I'll show you that, because I've got a child set up with multiple schedules, and you really get greater billing granularity by doing that. Staffing analysis is to the detailed hour. Again, it's exactly what they're scheduled. And the setup time is, this is the most complex. It takes the most time, but you're not recording exceptions and absences, because you're recording actual weeks they're scheduled versus absences. You may still have some absences if you have a child scheduled for a week and then they have a doctor's appointment in the afternoon one of the days they're coming to summer camp. But you shouldn't have as many of those. So let's take a look at these 2 in Procare. So I'm going to switch back over to Procare. And hopefully this won't take too long to go through. All right, so here we are. Going to go back to the Addams family, because what I've done with the Addams family is I've created a large schedule for both children that runs the whole summer. And in each of these schedules, let's go in, I've got Peter scheduled in the day room. He's there 8 to 4 all day from June 1 through August 30th. And I've got the same exact thing set up for Wendy. So Wendy is coming all summer, and she's in the same room with her brother. So this would be the kind of thing that you might do if your summer program is really rather simple, where you don't have a lot of different activities. You've just got, or maybe all of the activities are in the same room, and you basically charge the same thing for different age groups, but it's the same rate. So this is an easy approach to that. What I would do then is set up the billing, and because we've got our summer schedule here, right here, I could attach my summer billing to this schedule. But I want you to notice that the current billing is attached to standard billing all schedules. If you have your billing set up like that, what's going to happen is when you run your weekly or monthly billing, it's going to include these charges as well as whatever you put in here that's also on the cycle weekly, monthly. So just for Kim, and maybe for the rest of you too, another way to handle this, if you don't want to switch this over to being attached to a specific schedule, another way to skin this cat is to create a summer cycle. So I would go set up in my billing setup, I would set up a new cycle in here called Summer Camp and attach my summer billing to just that cycle. And this is another rather simple way to separate it out. So when you're running your billing, you're not going to be running your normal weeklies, or if you are running normal weeklies, then you're going to have to know which kids you are billing for the summer. So then I could go to Peter and Wendy. I could attach it to that future schedule there. What this means, if I do this, is billing only runs between June 1 and August 30th for whatever I put in there. This is what it would look like. I would pick summer camp probably. Day camp would be the all day, and it's 25, and that would be what I set up for Peter. I do the same thing for Wendy and use my summer camp cycle. And again, I'm typing the D on my keyboard to get descriptions that just begin with the letter D so I can see them easier on the screen. So that is that. It's really simple to set up. When you get to running your billing, you run your contract billing and you'd run your summer camp. I'm going to leave this post date right now to be April to show you that nothing will happen until we get to June 1st because we've attached those billings to that summer schedule for those two kids. So in other words, I have to say kids enrolled as of whenever. Usually it's the same as whatever billing date I want. So I'm going to say 6/1, and now I'm going to get those two children. Someone had their hand up a minute ago. I think it was Tara. Tara, did you have a question? I've taken you off mute. If you had a question, feel free to ask it. Or you could just type it into the chat box. I'll look down there for it if it's something I needed to cover. So a lot of people don't know that you can control your billing by not only the enrollment date, but by attaching it to a specific start and end date of a child's schedule in here. Well, what happens if we use a summer schedule like this, but we've got kids who are not coming some weeks? Well, because you've attached the billing to the whole date range, anytime you run that summer billing, these kids are going to come up. If your program is rather small, let's say you have less than 50 kids or 60 kids, something like that, or less, on the screen you'd only have 1 or 2 summary screens to look through. What you can do is print the roll call sheets out based on their schedule. So with Peter and Wendy, what I might do is create absences, and I did create a week of absences for both of them on July 3rd. Actually, it's the week just before July 4th. So the week starting June 29th through Friday, July 3rd, they're on vacation. Actually, both of them are. So you'll see Peter and Wendy both have vacation time here. They're scheduled into the day camp room. That's what their schedule is. And so when I run my roll call report, it's going to show this room, not their primary classroom. Right now, Peter's in the toddler's room and Wendy's in the kindergarten room. I'm not going to change those. So here's what happens. If I run one of my standard reports, say my roll call report, I can use my roll call format that includes the child's schedule. And it could be this one or any of these that have the word schedule in them are going to group out by the child's scheduled classroom right here. So let's run the date range for, we'll just go forward into the future here and say we're going to run it for June 1st. So here's Peter Brady. He's scheduled only in the morning in the day camp room, and here are Peter and Wendy. They're scheduled all day. So I've got 2 kids for AM and 2 kids for PM in this particular format of the roll call sheet. Well, let's go forward to a new date range where they are on vacation, and that would be June 29th, this week. And we're going to see they don't show up. So I've got nobody there. Peter is not scheduled, and actually nobody is scheduled there. So that's how you can use that to get your staffing counts. You would basically just use it like a roll call sheet and see who's coming that week. What you would then do is, in conjunction with the roll call, you could have the roll call sheet printed out and in front of you, and when you go to run your summer camp billing, you use your summer camp here. Because you're using a schedule that goes for the whole summer and you've attached the billing to that schedule, even though our post date might be our June 29th week, we're still going to get Peter and Wendy showing up here. That's because they are enrolled and the billing that we attach to them is in force on that date because the schedule runs the whole summer. So you'd look at your roll call sheet and you'd have your other kids who are scheduled to be there that week. And then you'd check off the ones that are. Anybody that's not, like these 2, you would just uncheck if they're not on your roll call sheet. So that's another variation on how you could handle billing without having to do a lot of re-setup work every time. So Tara's, let's see, I was wondering about kids who come every other week. Do we have to enter each week's schedule separately, or is there a shortcut? Well, I'm showing you the most complex way, and that would be to enter their schedule every other week and use that. But really, you don't need to do that, I don't think, in most cases. What I really recommend most of the time is the first method or the first or second method with child tracking. The child tracking really does give you an easy way to select kids to charge. The scenario where it works the best is that the amount you're charging per child is the same for all kids in that particular charge group. So if you've got different day camps, let's say you had 2 different rates. You had a day camp AM and a day camp all day. So I've got that in my system. And you wanted to charge different rates for each of those 2. And then extrapolate that out to however many you have. What you can do in the tracking setup, and I didn't show you where I set this up before, so I can show you that now. I'm going into the global tracking. This is in my system config under data management, global tracking, child. And under my child, I've got summer weeks here. Now, I could create one category that said Day Camp AM, and then do these for Day Camp AM only. And then create another one called Day Camp All Day and duplicate these. The other way to do this is to add, so I could do a June 8th or a June 1 or whatever our first week is here. I could do this, AM, and I could do another one that is June 1 all day, like that. And add that in. When I add it, it always adds it at the bottom. So as you're adding these in, you kind of design this in your mind before you set them up. But you can move them once you've created one. So this is what it would look like if you wanted to split your tracking like this. This is kind of nice if you have kids that move back and forth between different programs by the week or by whatever period your summer camp is. The schedules, the granular schedules like we're showing you now, would really apply more to children who are using custom schedules. They're coming just certain days this week and different days next week and so on and so forth, and it's harder to handle your billing correctly without being able to attach it to specific schedules. Or you can use in the billing, you can use a daily rate. So an example of that, if you're charging for your summer camp by the days they're signed up to come, you can run your roll call sheets by the schedule. And again, you can build individual schedules for kids. I think I've got 3 in here, yeah. So this is an example of how I would build one for children based on different day camps or different, I've got just an AM and then just an all day. So I've only got 2 types here, but I could have, these could be different programs really, and they incur different charges. What I've done though is I've created different weekly schedules. You can see he's in the AM camp only on the first week, and on the second week he's in the PM all day camp rather, and then he's not in camp until July 6th. And so when I ran that report for June 29th and Peter Brady did not show up, that's why, because he was not scheduled. So that's how that works. It's basically the same thing here, and you can attach the billing for that week to that schedule. Again, it's more work because you have to go through and do each one individually. But once you've done that, whenever you get to that week, all you need to do is run your contract for summer camp, let's say, for everybody that's enrolled. And they're there. They show up. If they're not attached to this billing, you know, for the weeks between June 14 and July 6th here, Peter would not have any billing happen because there is no billing attached in those date ranges, June 29th, for example. So just to reiterate, the primary classroom and enrollment status that's an easy way to handle it. One thing you can do in Procare is you have a batch enrollment change of status. You also have a batch change classroom or graduate kids to a classroom, and that's a great thing to do. You can put kids all out for summer break on a beginning day if you don't know who's coming for that particular week for summer, and then as they sign up, give them the future enrollment date and just say they're enrolled until I change that status back to summer break. And then that really is a simple way to control the billing. It's really nice for programs where you're not really charging anything different than you charge during your normal school year. You just want to know, I'm going to skip some children some weeks. So the enrollment status really is really simple there. The other section, or the second category of how to do this, primary classroom and tracking, really is the simplest to do for having the most granular ability without having to do a lot of work. When you set up those trackings, you can get as granular as you want with the trackings. Children can have as many tracking items as you need to attach to them. and then you can always select those tracking items for the reporting and for the selected accounts billing. I'm going to just say thank you to everybody that's attended. I am going to go ahead and stop the recording of the webinar at this point. We've covered all of our topics. And I can take more questions if folks want to stick around. Otherwise, thanks a lot for attending.